call this meeting of the Hooksett School Board to order for Wednesday, July 11, 2012, 6:30 p.m. We stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Proof of posting. All right. Looking for approval of the minutes for our June 20th meeting.
So moved.
I haven't had a chance to look them over yet.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I haven't looked them over.
Okay. Would you like to table them?
I will.
Okay.
Table June 20th minutes. Next meeting.
We opened May 31st minutes. I have a correction on that. Can I make a motion to reopen the minutes of May 31st?
I'll second.
Second.
After reviewing the video, on the first page, it says pro motion that the board commit to schedule a public forum. Commit was not in my motion. It was just the board schedule a public forum.
So you're looking to amend those minutes?
Yep.
Just to remove the word commit, is that
Okay.
on page one?
We have a motion to amend the minutes of May 31st. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, opportunity for the public to address the board. Please.
Thank you for my 3 minutes. My name is Ken Neal. I live at 600 Drive in Hooksett. I've had 2 children that attended Central, attended Hooksett schools from first grade right up through. Got great education at Central. I have one more daughter who's just finished 8th grade at Poly Middle School and is heading into Central. And while my other 2 children got a great education at Central, I am very concerned about the education that my daughter is about to receive at Central this coming year if we decide to send her there. The Manchester School District is in crisis mode right now. I realize that the problem lies in funding and that Dr. Brennan has advocated for an appropriate funding level. But nonetheless, the lack of funding is directly affecting the high school education our Hooksett children will receive. Very important decisions were made recently regarding the appropriation by the Alderman and where the limited funds were to go. I asked where was Hooksett in these discussions, who represented and advocated for Hooksett when these decisions were made, because I watched the meetings and I didn't see or hear Hooksett's name mentioned as a sending community. A material breach of contract, in my opinion, will be forthcoming if state standards for accreditation are not met. Class sizes that exceed state standards, lack of course offerings, lack of a technology credit offering, and no, I do not want my child to meet her language requirement through a virtual learning course or a Skype course. In fact, I believe the material breach of contract is in place now, according to paragraph 2 of the high school maintenance agreement, where it states the Manchester School District further warrants that it will A, administer its schools to promote a safe environment for learning. At the next to last Manchester School District Board meeting, Dr. Brennan was directly asked by one of the school board members if he felt that the high schools were safe with the elimination of 1 administrator at each school. And his response was that they were not, in his opinion. Manchester is failing to administer its schools to promote a safe environment, and this, according to our contract, in my opinion, is a material breach. The question is, where do we go from here? We We have great feeder schools, and unfortunately, I think that we're going to be paying for a substandard high school education for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mark Vigo. First, I'd like to address the minutes of the last meeting and to make a correction prior to you voting on it, because I didn't notice an error on it, and I know we didn't vote on it today, so I want to bring it up tonight perhaps. In my mention of my last public input at that meeting, I mentioned the fact that there is a policy or a standard by which behavior is being conducted in meetings, and noted that I don't see a lot of those standards being adopted here, so I suggested that you read and adopt Riggins rules, RIGGINS rules, as at least some of them, or if not all of them, to advise you on how to conduct yourselves in meetings, as a lot of these meetings are not conducted properly in my mind. I'm focusing on process, not on personalities. So in the minutes, I noticed that it was read as Reagan's rules, REAGANS. As much as I love Ronald Reagan in the past, he did not adopt those, initiate those rules himself, although he said it. So I would just ask that in the minutes of the last meeting that the word be changed to Reagan's rules, RIGGINS. I also, and I want to thank Dr. Brennan here and Teresa for being here tonight. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate that. I feel their pain every day. I watch their videos, and I know a lot of it is not their fault. I know a lot of it is about the tax caps and property taxes and the aldermen operating the way they do, and the school board operating the way they do. So I feel their pain every day as I watch the videos. Having said that, I just want to address perhaps two questions that I would like the board to address to them. Is having watched those videos, it's my understanding that Dr. Brennan and the school administration is now focusing on a downtrend of supplying teachers and administrators towards the elementary and middle schools, and not as much focus on the high schools, taking up some teacher positions and administrative positions out of the high schools, which will obviously affect the Hooksett perspective here as well, and piggybacking on what the other guy had said as well. I'm concerned about that. I know some, especially the language arts teachers, are being brought down to a lower level towards elementary and middle schools, and I'm concerned how 60 positions to be fed at a first come first served basis would affect our Hooksett Central students. Secondly, I'd also mentioned at the last meeting during my public input that I had heard that on a radio show, Rich Gerard's radio show, several days before this prior meeting, that Dr. Brennan had stated on the radio show that the BYOD program for the town of Hooksett is going to be initiated in September and October timeframe, and that was even prior to the school board vote. I would like the school board to ask Dr. Brennan how he came across that information and who told him that.
Anyone else?
Oh, for your approach, I actually copied Reagan's rules, so I want to pass that out for your information. Future consideration for adoption. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, with that, Dr. Brennan, if you'd like to give us the state of the high schools, and then if you would entertain some questions from the board and administration.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think it's very obvious to people who have been following the news and children who attend the schools and hear what's happening. As Ken pointed out, we are in dire straits as a school district. King Slip were laid off 161 individuals, but in addition to that, we were instructed not to fill 27 positions based on retirements and resignations. So when you look at the number, it's closer to 190, 193. We have fortunately received additional funding from the Alderman beyond the budget that was submitted by the mayor. It was closer to the budget that I identified as a tax cap budget. I also submitted 2 other budgets at that time. One being not what I would classify as a needs budget or maintenance budget, in order to maintain what we already had of approximately $162 million, and a progressive budget of $164 million. We spent much of our time discussing the tax cap and the impact and what we were or were not required to do under law. The board finally voted on the budget, 152. I believe it was in terms of going forward to the Alderman. We did secure additional funding, as I said earlier, from the Alderman, sometimes classified as one-time money. So we're at, by my estimation, we're between $8 and $10 million short of where I think we should be. We are starting to recall, based on the monies that we were able to secure beyond tax cap money, we are starting to recall teachers. I will speak to the point about the elementary placement. That was my intent, and if you watch the videos, as you indicated, you can see that that wasn't well received in some corners, because I was looking at the long-term effect on our school district. And I'm a firm believer that the earlier we get involved with students, as you have, because of the makeup, the better we be. We have taken another look at that, and we continue to work with our high schools to determine what their vacancies or what their projected vacancies are, what their enrollments may be. We're just getting that information now. And we have some resources that, if it's necessary, to direct them to the high schools. It is our intent not to have courses in excess of 30, not to breach the agreement, as it was discussed. I don't know how successful we'll be at that. We are also gaining some resources, unfortunately for us. Teachers who have more experience have decided to go elsewhere, not those that have been laid off. We're seeing that trend. And as a result, their compensation was higher than what we projected in the layoffs. That will not close the gap for what we should have and what we do have. But it will increase those numbers into the 50 range for teachers. We have brought back one assistant principal at each of the middle schools. So we're, particularly Mr. Tursi has been the point person, as committee member Pearl pointed out. He's the person I go to because he's in the mix of it all. Perhaps he could talk a little bit, with your permission, about where we are currently with that staff and how we're identifying the needs that we feel.
Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight. If you look at the overall staffing, due to the cuts, there was an impact across the entire district. There is a substantial focus on the high schools, because the high schools did see a significant impact, as well as the middle schools. And along with Dr. Brennan, we had this discussion many times about really supporting the base of education, which starts at the K-2 level. Even the elementary schools saw an impact as well. There isn't a school that we have within the district that did not see an impact from the cuts. I understand the specific interest in the high schools, particularly from folks in the sending towns, because that's where your students are going. We have recently been able to put out what we are calling the preliminary staffing numbers to all of the schools, and I've asked the high school principals to submit the impact of those staffing numbers based on their class size projections, because they have all of the student requests based on their program of studies in the system at this point. So they've started the scheduling process, and they're able now to put the number of staff members that are going to be within each of the buildings into that scheduling process. And I'm starting to get the information back now as to areas that we would have to draw some attention to that might that might need additional staffing if we have resources that are available to do that. So we're starting that process right now to address some of those areas that would be raised as a concern due to class size, higher class sizes than normal. So that's the process at this point, and we're, as I said, just starting to get that information back from the schools, and we'll make adjustments as necessary.
As far as, there is one positive thing. I think that there are a lot of positives, but the one most tangible is the creation of a 4-year school at the Manchester School of Technology. We'll start in September bringing in 9th graders with the hope that we would have a 9 through 12 approach for those students. We'll continue to take students, as in most CTEs or career technical education centers, at the 11th and 12th grade. This, I believe, will help identify students who don't typically enjoy sitting in a classroom, but rather putting things together and taking a look at alternative means of learning. So that's a plus. Ken mentioned also the notion of going online. I think there are students who could benefit from it. By no stretch of the imagination am I suggesting that all students must do this, but I do believe, particularly at the high school level, we have not, not only as a district, but in education, looked to the opportunities that exist out there relative to learning outside of the classroom and having instructors who have earned their degrees through different types of work and that sort of thing. Our policy still requires that if any student, what we often refer to as extended learning opportunities, if any student was to participate in that, they would still have a highly qualified teacher that would review their assessments. We are in deep conversations with our local colleges, including Manchester Community College, Southern New Hampshire University, to develop dual credit opportunities for students. We're investigating the opportunity for our high school students to take courses in languages and other areas that not only would they earn credit for graduation, but they would earn college credit, which the emotion dies down. If you think about that, you're helping yourself and your child not only in terms of their credit, but also in terms of that dollar tuition bill that comes your way. So we're investigating all of those things. We're not pleased with the situation at all. But we continue to work. We work at it. We will continue to work at it. We'd be happy to provide any answers to any questions you have tonight, or if you develop questions and you want more hot data that we don't provide this evening, we'd be more than happy to do that. Candia School Board has asked for information, and we have produced that relative to the number of students just from the past year who were in courses, how many courses were they in, how many, what was the class size. We'd be happy to provide that for you if that's what you would like. And we have nothing to hide. We will simply bring the information forward as it is. We don't like being the bearer of this news. We much prefer talking about how we're progressing and how our students are progressing. But the reality is what it is. So we're open to any questions right now. If I may I respond to the question about BYOD?
Certainly.
Sure. I happen to be at a meeting of BYOD, and it was in Candy, I believe, and overheard what was happening. And I misspoke by saying, all I was trying to say is that this is the trend, and if we're not prepared for it as a high school, that's going to be problematic for us. So we need to think ahead. When I was on Mr. Gerard's show. So I didn't have any inside information, nor did I have any sense of where they were. I just happened to sit in and listen to Candia at this Candia's board meeting, and I made that connection. We need to be prepared. I wasn't stating, and it came out that was never my intention to say it's a done deal. All I know is that it started in the 6th grade, from what I understand, I don't know in the 8th grade, but it was decided at that meeting for the remainder of that school year they would try to pilot. And I was just trying to think ahead in terms of what happens if. we have students who continue to come to our schools, and they have a better sense of using electronic devices, and they in fact have been able to use their own devices. We have two areas of concern. One, that we have the infrastructure to support it, and two, we have the wherewithal as far as providing educational direction for our teachers. I guess there's a third one, that we have policies that address that, and that's the only reason I brought that up. And so that was my reaction to what I heard.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions?
Gentlemen, I've watched both of you on the meetings, and I really commend you for the dedication you've had and the difficult position that you've been in. And again, I've seen what I call flushing that's going on here. As you said, you lost some of your higher end teachers. I know that's good for the budget, but also our experienced teachers have gone to where maybe it's a less volatile situation. And some of your teachers have been laid off, happy to get their jobs back, but it tends to, my thinking, it tends to bring us into a less experienced teaching staff and younger teaching staff, which does concern me, especially if this happens every year or every other year, because somebody that puts up with it one year, the next year might say, I've had enough. And so that does concern me. I did have a question about the class size, and I would certainly welcome that information if you could give it to us, because I did take a note that you intended to be under 30, but it seems it's a little preliminary for you to be able to say right now that that's going to happen. So I certainly wouldn't hold you to that. Is there going to be any effect on sports at this point? Has that been?
No, sir.
Okay. Which I guess kind of concerns me in the sense that where that balance will come, as much as I'd like to see sports happen for kids, but if we're going to give up teachers for continuing sports programs, I think that could be a problem as we move along.
May I just interrupt
Sure.
for a moment? Sorry to do that, but that doesn't mean it won't come up between now and the beginning of the school.
Okay.
That we're always open.
Just right now, it hasn't been talked about.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And I know it's still early for September at this point. I think I lost track of this one, but is Manchester on a track to reduce its credit requirement for high school? I know it's been discussed, but I don't really know where that was at.
We had asked that for the board to consider reducing the course requirement, credit requirement from 22 to 20 for our students to graduate from high school. That's for multiple reasons, one of which is that we have a large number of students that may be at the 17, 18 credit point in their junior year, and then we'll have to take full courses. It's our belief, and Mr. Tercey always can speak for himself, but it's our belief that there's a portion of our population that this would help. And it really needs to be stated often that doesn't preclude students from earning as many as 30 or 36 credits if they can work that out in their schedule. So I think people thought what we were saying was we're going to reduce it to 20, that means everything else is going to collapse. That would be our only expectation. That is not the case whatsoever. We believe there are students who, if given the opportunity to graduate with only 20 credits, would not only help them, but help the other students who are in classes that these students may not want to be in school and may detract or distract from the educational approach. So that's educational system. So that's what we were trying to do with that. The board has not acted on that. I have no indication that they will. But that was the rationale.
Okay, thank you. I just have one more, and this may be a little preliminary too. But again, where are we with foreign language now, as far as West and Central, or what do we expect, if you know at this point?
Mr. Tercey can get specific.
All three high schools, Central, West, and Memorial, will continue to offer Spanish, German, Latin, and French. So there have been reductions within the world language department, but the programming will still be within those schools. So all four languages will continue to be offered.
Any sense whether you're going to have enough capacity all the kids at this time, or?
You know, as I said, we're just starting to get those numbers in now. And where we have some obstacles, and this is just my opinion, is within the leveling of those specific world languages, because those create additional sections within that language. And to fill each level is a different section, and then there's specific sections of that one level. So that's where we're seeing some discrepancies in the preliminary class sizes because of the leveling, where your higher levels would have lower numbers, and your middle levels, your 2s and 3s, would have the higher numbers. So that throws a little twist in the class size configurations.
One of the things I picked up from your presentation is exactly that if you take just the number of students and divide it by the number of teachers, it's always going to be worse than that, because you have to have levels. You're not going to have every class with an even number of kids in it and so forth. So I realize that it's going to take some work.
If I may just jump in again, please. This is one of the areas that I would like to see our attempts to expand our working partnerships with our colleges, local colleges, universities. Because if you have a level 4 student in a foreign language, perhaps we can make it work so that that student not only gets that language, but also does it at a college level. And that doesn't mean that they have to go to that college. We've talked in terms of having it set up right up within our building. We currently have, I think it's last year, between 11 and 13 students that went to the University of New Hampshire, Manchester for Chinese. And so they earned a credit, Mandarin Chinese. I was supposed to qualify that, Mandarin Chinese. They earned a credit with our school district and also at the university level. So we continue to attempt to make those connections and those partnerships that really attract the student who wants to go on for further education at a higher level than some may. And I'm optimistic that we'll perhaps not need all of that, but we'll start.
That does answer my question, because I was going to ask about transportation. If children are going to have to go to class time would be lost, but if you can have a satellite program, I think that would certainly eliminate.
I've actually had conversations with students that do on occasion get to do that, and one of the things that I asked about students, what if you had to come to school at 7 to get a language or a subject that you really wanted, or stay until 3:30 or 4? Would you do that? They said absolutely. So we're also looking at that as an opportunity as well. There's not a stone that we're not going to turn over to try to make it work. And I might add that it might work in the long run better for all of us if we can develop these other strategies. There's that saying that no crisis should go wanting. So, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but we are looking at every possible opportunity. Oftentimes we'll get sound bites where we'll talk about in-district learning or Skyping and all that. That's barely the surface of the depth in which we're going at. I would like to see more of our students at the higher level, actually at any level, who can work within a college environment and get credit. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's why we continue to remain optimistic. And there are days that we really have to work hard at that, but that's why.
Well, I appreciate you looking at all the options, because I think Manchester is an adjustment. And I hear about one-time money and how long that's going to be there. I think there is some type of adjustment. Maybe we're not ready for it. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have.
Yes.
Just following along with that, how would connecting with the universities affect the budget? Wouldn't that have an impact as well?
Not if we can.
Or would you be looking for some sort of collaboration or?
Collaboration, partnership that we would not, and this will cause the ire of the teachers union to get a little fanned at this point. But if we could work it out so our students could go and work in a college environment or have a college professor come and share the cost, that's one of the reasons we're doing it.
And when we heard about Skyping or online, is that more what you guys were thinking, or is there another avenue that you're looking at for online courses and Skype?
Oh, we're looking at, for instance, if We had 3 students at Memorial, 5 at Central, and 2 at West that wanted to do course X. It's not enough to have a teacher at each of those schools, but perhaps we could, and it was, I haven't used the word Skype, others have, but what we're looking for is in-district opportunities, so it could be videoed, and the theme, or the part of the concept is that that teacher would not always stay at, let's say, West. They would teach once at West to Memorial and Central, and then perhaps 2 weeks later go to Central, so that they do have contact with the teachers, not that it's a rigid process. So that would be one, and then online learning in and of itself through colleges, and we have VLAX, which is a charter school that has a lot of online learning in the state. I will provide a disclaimer at this time. I serve actively on that board because I believe that's an option that we need to pursue.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding the 161 teachers that were initially pink slipped. How many of those are you estimating you're calling back from their pink slip, or you're still not sure at this time? Because it appears that you've had a number of professionals who have chosen to go elsewhere or offered to retire early.
Sure.
But our average as to what we've basically lost through the cuts is around 105. So as we're looking at transfers and recalls, we're still around that number of a total loss of 105 teachers. That's where we are at this point.
And we continue, just to explain the process, I'm sure you're familiar with the seniority process and other things. What happens is when we recall teachers, they have 10 days to respond to us. We have worked, fortunately, Mr. Dick, who is the president of the MEA, Manchester Educational Association, has been very helpful and cooperative in developing. We'll do the first 10 days, but after that, we're going to pick up the pace so that we know who we're going to get back. Our fear is that people, quite candidly, could be on vacation. And we send a letter, we send emails, we make phone calls, but they may not hear that until they get back. So we don't want to wait, and as soon as we determine that, we do another recall. If someone says, I'm not coming back, we do a recall. And we move down the list. And some people have the ability to say, no, I don't want that position, but I'm going to stay on the recall list. And the one that concerns me the most is, as we were just talking about, Mr. Pearl, people reaching out to other districts that we may not hear about it right away. We have to wait for those resignations. So that's why it's so difficult for us to, someone asks us to give a specific response. It's such a state of flux, but as soon as we hear something, we get it out. We actually had a permission on the 28th of June, I believe, to go forward with this. So I'm not making excuses. The facts are that the 28th, and we're doing that. And we wait every day. Mr. Tercey works with our HR director, Mrs. Wakefield, and keeps track of it. So I would like to come back in August. I don't know when your August meeting is, or whenever it is, and just give you an update. But I also will provide Dr. Littlefield with an ongoing update.
Please.
And also when the question comes around about the number of students within the class, your class size in general, this goes to Mr. Pearl's question, getting that class size information. That's something that we've discussed even at our board level, that we're not necessarily, you don't have a solid class size number until October 1st. And so whenever people ask for a class size number or class size average, it's really not confirmed until October 1st, and even then it fluctuates. I did some math looking at the trends from June 1st of last school year, which is 2 school years ago now, and up until October 1st of this past current school year, and we saw a shift of 1,000 students just between June 1st, the end of the school year, and October 1st. And then the major shift happened between September and October. So to really see to give a class size number, I'm not confident until we get to October of giving those numbers out. So everything when the request comes through, we're using the term preliminary averages because they're not solid numbers.
I would also like to speak to Ken's point regarding the course offerings. Each of our schools, each of our high schools continue to offer over 240 courses in a variety of departments and also at different levels. We are looking at ensuring that we provide as much as we can, but we have to be realistic. I believe the state requirement is 45 credits that a high school must provide, offerings, not credits rather, course offerings. We're well above that. We'll continue to keep as many as we possibly can. But we also, being realistic, have to look at some courses that may only have 2 or 3 students in it. And that's the case. Where's the justification for maintaining that? And as Mr. Tercey was talking about, I was a former high school principal, and I always was concerned about physics numbers. And I'll use that as an example. Students sign up for physics, and they spend about 2 weeks with that teacher. And next thing you know, you go from 30 students or 25 students to 10. And that's, I think, the point that we're trying to make here. There's a lot of state of flux. But we will, as I said right in the beginning, we have nothing to hide, nor will we conceal anything. We will provide the answers to any question you ask. If we don't have an answer, we'll get it for you. We will provide you the facts as we know.
Staying on our class size, do you have a feel for, and this may be unfair, maybe digging a little deep here, but based on projections, what your variances, so to speak, come October? If you would take say a July number, I'm sure you have some numbers on projections of what you're going to have, what the variance is on an average.
Are you talking? Sorry. Are you talking specifically at the high school level?
At the high school, yes.
Okay. Well, what we're looking at, and one of the requests that we gave out to the principals, given the staffing, is looking at anywhere from a range of 25 to a little over 30. We've set 25 to 30 as a guideline. That's not going to be realistic. Said that publicly. So we're really trying to stay within that range of a minimum class of 25, because we do have classes that are lower than that. But we're going to have to look and see specifically those classes that are low. Yes, some need to be low in their class sizes, but when we have those classes that do not need to be that low, that we have to figure out what we're going to do with staffing to make sure the higher class sizes are equal out. So we did set some guidelines, but we're really trying to stick with that minimum around 25, and we obviously know that the guideline is at 30. It's not going to be realistic with the staffing that we currently have, and the intent is to, as we said earlier, or I said earlier, is about bringing the resources, if we have additional resources, to make sure any of those higher class sizes are brought down.
Is it safe to say the offerings that you have, or you're seeing for this year, this coming year, are the same as last year? And that maybe just the class sizes would be larger?
There will be some reduction in course offerings, particularly in our electives. Not any of the required courses, because your required courses for graduation need to be offered. You might see a reduction in some of the levels of those courses, but any of the course reductions are within the electives or the levels of the required courses, where we would end up having to blend levels. So you might have a 3-4 class or a 2-3 class. So.
Could you give some examples of those that may be cut, or is it early to
I can give an example of what happened last year when we had some cuts. I haven't seen the courses, the principals haven't submitted the courses that would necessarily be cut for next year as a solid cut. But as for last year's example, we lost astronomy, would be one of the courses, which is an elective outside of your required course, such as physical science or biology, or we wouldn't touch the chemistry or the physics, but astronomy would be an example of what an impact of some reduction of staff last year would be.
The other factor is that we still have summer school going on, and some of the students who were not successful last year have an opportunity to credit or to pass those courses, and we have to wait until that's completed to see what impact that has on the students in those classes. So, and of course it's magnified because of the numbers, the simple numbers that we have. But we're in touch with summer school administration. We have a sense, have a real sense as soon as it's done, completed rather, and we'll factor those in. So there's a couple of other variables that enter into this at the high school level.
One question on the reduction of, or the changing of leveling of classes. Are you changing that you're not at, and I always get confused what the higher level is. So if you have, it's 4, okay. So if you have to reduce a level 4 class and a child wants it, are you moving them to a level 3 and keeping it on their transcripts that they're a level 4 and offering them additional work, or having the teacher do differentiated instruction so that they, on their college transcript, it still looks like they had a level 4, or are they being reduced to a level 3?
We currently have blended classes in the high schools where we have a 3-4 class. You still go in as a level 4 student. Take Spanish, for example, Spanish 3-4. The difference being is that those level 4 students are getting a heightened level of instruction and expectations within that same class. Might be using different resources, so again, we're talking about differentiated instruction, but they're still considered a level 4 student. They're graded as a level 4 student, so that weighted GPA is based on that level 4, even though it's a blended class.
And we also haven't mentioned, I just said it under his breath a little bit, that I heard, we still continue to offer AP courses. It's not just, we haven't reduced them. We have a couple that we're talking about their staffing, whether or not they'll be able to run because of the training that's required, and whether or not that individual will be recalled. So we're still looking, but we don't have any intention of reducing our AP courses unless there is a lack of enrollment. So I want people to realize that as well. It's just not the level 1, 2, 3, 4. We go above and beyond in some cases, and I use the example of Mandarin Chinese and also our AP courses. So it's not a complete shutdown from the outside looking in.
And with that, just enforcing the concept of not reducing the AP courses, if the question was to come to me as to what would you reduce a level 4 in an AP course, it would be the level 4 course and have those students go into the AP course, because what it comes down to is if they decide they have a choice to take that final exam or not, they're still going to get that level of course and the grade that goes along with the course without taking that final AP exam. So I would see that as a combination of level 4 and AP, but calling it an AP level course.
While we're on that, when you talk about necessarily cut it unless you didn't have the enrollment, does the enrollment have to hit that 25?
Typically AP courses are less than 25. We feel comfortable. We did project, as Mr. Tracy indicated, a 25 to 30 range. There'll be flexibility in the AP courses. When you get down to 3 or 4, I think that's problematic. When you have double digits, closer to 15 would be ideal, but that would be something that we'd have to take a look at. And the other piece, I know the earlier question about technology was mentioned. We did reinstate or recall positions at our middle schools so that we could really focus in on portfolios for our students to be prepared to do portfolios, which would lend themselves to different types of technology, technical courses at the high school level. So we're trying to shift some of that sand so that they can move forward. We have been lacking at our middle schools anyway in terms of having the infrastructure and the resources for the development of portfolios, but we're feeling very confident that we'll be able to do that. And then that would free up some things.
And what that does is recalling the ICT teachers, there were 4 that were recalled. That allows us to maintain our ICT staff, our computer education teachers within the high school, so that the high schools still have their computer education teachers. Not to the degree that they originally had, but the original plan had all of the computer education teachers that were left in the district into the middle schools to develop portfolios. Now we've recalled teachers to address the portfolio issue in the middle schools, which allows us to put those teachers back into the high schools so that the students can get their ICT credits through those specific courses.
On the other end of the spectrum, in your level 1 and 2 classes, do you also blend those if your enrollment numbers are low? Whereas if a child was a level 1 student, but was being put in a level 2, would the requirements be less?
It's very rare that those are blended. The majority of the blending that would happen is in 2 3s or 3 4s. Level 1s usually stay as a level 1 individual class.
But you do it sometimes at the 2-3 level?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Which is very similar to what our middle schools have as well. So it's a continuum.
This may be a little repetitive, but I'm going back to the course offerings. So we have this group of course offerings that were offered last year. And right now, you believe there'll be cuts to that, but we don't know what they are at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay. Do you have an idea, do you think for the August meeting we'll know that?
We can give you a better sense of it, and I'm not gonna guarantee that it will be set in stone. It's such a fluid situation for us, but we could update you, give you a clearer picture. I believe what I could speculate that we could do is say, these courses will not be at this time, based on enrollment. And we should know that. And then,
Just for your info too, our meetings are August 7th and 21st. So I think as a board, we probably want to know as quickly as possible, but
we don't have a problem, I'll speak for Michael in this case, we don't have a problem. What days of the week? It's Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesdays. We probably could do both. Or I could come one time and Michael could come another. Just to keep you in the mix.
that would be great. Yeah, thank
How
you.
about we just commit to that now?
Great. Same time, same
Yes.
place.
Could we also commit to him coming on October 16th? Because he said their preliminary numbers would be out October 1st, and giving him a little leeway, could we?
I mean, no objections from the board, I think we have.
I think we could do that, because we have to, as every school district, submit our numbers, on October numbers. We would have a better sense of that.
I didn't want to ask if you come on the 2nd, I'm closed.
We're serious, and I think I've said this all along since I've been here. I'd rather come here and have you ask questions than have you read about something or watch it and not have that communication. It's a trying situation for all of us, and particularly for you who send students to our district. You feel like you're on the outside more so, and that's why we reach out. Be happy to do that as often as we can.
Yep, please. It seems like from an administration point of view, we've got a lot more work to do trying to juggle all of these factors. Have you got adequate staff, or has administration been affected by these cuts to a point where even with best intentions, it is strained with the extra work of trying to get these things in order?
Yes. The district, when I was assistant superintendent in Manchester in 1998 to 2000, we had 2 assistant superintendents, one for secondary, one for elementary. We also had special education support. We have more services available to us. We've reduced, over the last few years, SAU support has been reduced by 15.5 positions. It's a strain. we used to joke about taking away the plates and giving everyone platters, so that, you know, we have more room, but the amount of time that's put in, people just don't realize how many hours are put in, just to get simple tasks. I mean, with this process, it's difficult, and we will make mistakes. It's just inevitable.
Well, it seems to me unlike when your company, when they lose 50 people, you have less to administer. But it seems like every time you lose somebody, you have to rejuggle virtually everything. And I wonder, you know, and it seems like that changes on a week-to-week basis too, so it seems like it's been quite a task. But
We've been very fortunate to retain quality people, I have to say. Throughout our school district, teachers, all support staff, principals, assistant principals. We continue to give them more work. At this point, they continue to respond. I get very concerned about the tipping point. And I also believe it won't be a gradual tipping point. We tip over. But we keep working on it.
thank you.
There were a number of numbers thrown around. There was I think the high number of teacher loss of 190, I think you said, but with recalls, it sounded like a net loss of 105. I think at this point, do you know again at this point the impact to the high schools, and do you have it as a per school?
We don't have those numbers until we've finished all the transfers and recalls, the specific numbers. The high schools and the middle schools they saw the largest reduction in comparison to the elementary schools. But we don't have the confirmed numbers of what that is until we basically finish the transfer and recall process. That's something that can be updated in the August meeting.
Yeah, please. I have a very high level question. Based on what you know today, and I'll say your interpretation of the agreement, based on today, are there any breaches that you're aware of, that you know what, no matter what we do, at this point, there's nothing we can do? I know things could change between now and September, but
Not at this time, and we're doing everything in our power that we can to ensure that there is no breach. And I cannot sit here tonight and guarantee there won't be some breaches or violations of whatever we want to use. We need to have your students there. We want to have your students there, as we do with all of our students, and we'll continue to figure out ways to get it done, but at this point I can't say. I feel confident at this point that we have. Now, some people may say we have in some areas, but I'm confident, well, no, I can't give you an answer. I feel confident that we're okay. I'm also in contact with Dr. Littlefield and the family to go with something. And I know you're all under a lot of pressure here. We're under pressure, everyone's under pressure, particularly with the events that occurred relative to Auburn and how people are feeling. So we're very cognizant of that. Whether we have you sitting at the table or not, it's always in our minds anyway that we've made a commitment we need to live up to. And we'll do the best we can.
further questions? We'll see you
In a second.
in a second.
Chair, can we recognize people from the audience as such if people are looking at questions? Make a motion that we recognize people. from
Well,
the audience.
I mean, you know what, I'll ask that the questions be addressed to the board, and we'll move from there.
So maybe if the audience has a question, they're gonna give it to us and then we can say,
Please,
Okay.
yeah, address the board with your question, and then we'll move. Okay.
I just want to get back to the
Excuse me,
briefing.
I made a motion that we recognize the audience. Can we ask if I can second that motion first?
I
I get a second?
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get back to the issue of teacher contract. Could you ask Dr. Brennan if he feels that with the elimination of an assistant principal at each of the high schools, if the high schools will be safe for Hooksett students and all students, but obviously I'm concerned about my student.
That was a mere technicality, but if you could answer that.
Sure, I'd be happy to respond. I was asked a similar question around the middle schools, previous board meeting in Manchester, and I did respond that I said no because I'm concerned. But it doesn't mean that it'll be because we don't have an assistant principal. It could be because we have overcrowded classrooms. It could be for a variety of reasons. And we are actually looking at options rather than having assistant principals trying to secure more support in that area. But I can't sit here tonight and guarantee you or anyone else in the public that there could be a causal effect because something happens. It was because we didn't have an assistant principal. Things happen in high schools, as you all know, middle schools as well. Would I feel more confident about the safety and security of all of our students if we had additional folks in our teaching and administration? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I had two questions to follow up on. Actually, one of them was a follow up on your comment a few minutes ago, your question to Dr. Brennan. So, I know it's a state of flux right now, and there's disclaimers, until October or August at this point. So, having stated that there's 105 teachers not returning and not responding to the recall, is it the philosophy of the school administration to follow those teachers who did not come back and still keep those courses in place, or are they removing those courses because teachers did not fill in that position? And another question that I would ask, and having watched the meetings on the video, I understand that the school board voted against any transportation to MST for any students and in violation of the state regulations. I'm wondering what the status is on that. Thank you.
I'll answer the last question first. The board has been made aware that they have, in their vote relative to charter schools, not MST.
Right.
MST, people are starting to call MST a charter school. It is not.
I misspoke. Thank you.
And you're not the only one. So I just want to clear that up. We have a meeting scheduled for July 30th, I think. At July 30th, and the agenda item will address compliance with the law around transportation, number one. In terms of the 105, that's district-wide, it's K-12. So again, because of the fluidity of the situation, we can't say courses won't be offered because we don't know what the impact will be at the high school. And that's why we need the time. Sure.
And again, in stating the 105, that's an average.
Right.
That's not 105 set. I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And to answer the question about the recall positions, if there's an open position and we do not transfer somebody does not transfer into that position, or if they're not recalled into that position, then it's a position that would be posted for hire. So any position that's open that's currently within the budget, even after the cuts, if we don't get a transfer or a recall into that position will be posted for hire.
For that school level.
For that school level.
Thank you.
Yes.
Follow it on. Thank you.
Again, just to build a little more on that is the fact that we have had teachers who are teaching at one of our schools who have left. They're in our budget, so we will be bringing them back. The only restriction that was placed upon us was by the Board of School Committee were the initial retirees and resignations. If it occurs now, as Mr. Tercey indicated, we will be filling those positions. So, and I try to teach my young friend here from time to time, people never forget a number. And if you put it out there, it's something that we have to caution ourselves. As he did, I do provide that disclaimer. So, But again, in August and as well as October, we'll give you more real numbers, particularly in October.
Any other questions for the board at this point? We all set? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
See you on the 7th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
We're all in the same boat. Thank you.
Thank you.